got quite a mind for your age. Why, one thing, and you dragged me right onto the stage. Now I'm here, there's no telling what may ensue. With a cat such as me, and a thinker like you. Oh, the things you can think, oh, the things you can think, if you're willing to try. Think invisible ink, or a ink with a stick, or a stain to the sky. If you open your mind, oh, the things you will find, long enough to get loose. Oh, the things you can think, when you think about Zeus.
Great job, kids. Thank you very much. Let's hear for our players. Let's begin with the prayer. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, we ask that you open our minds and our hearts as we gather tonight. We pray for your wisdom, for your grace. We gather in thanksgiving for our faith, our church, our school, our beautiful children. And we just pray for your guidance and for your direction. And Mary, we ask your intercession as we pray. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. bless us. Bless us in the of God. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us now and okay. Blue Ribbon Beyond. So I want to talk about, there's a lot of people who talk about already, the Blue Ribbon Commission and where we go for the Blue Ribbon Commission. I want to unpack the Blue Ribbon Commission a little bit first before we start to go beyond it. What did the report say? A lot of people probably read the report. It's not that long. What were some of the, I call them, failure factors? What were the conditions that were there and been there for a long time that led to this earth-shattering news on January 6th that we were about to close 49 of our schools? Now, that number has since changed, but still, it's earth-shattering, the scope of this thing. What were some of the conditions? Enrollment was a big one, right? And you can trace that to lots and lots of things. If you followed some of the graphs and the charts they had there, it's pretty staggering. The high point of our enrollment was around 275,000 kids in around 1960. Is that amazing? And we were serving 275,000 kids in the 5-county area, right, in 1960. That's much bigger than the Philadelphia School District is right now, by the way, right? When I was ordained by 1989, it was down to around, I'm going to say, about 160,000. 160,000 in 1989. And now it's back to where it was in 1911. 60-some thousand children in the 5-count, right? So enrollment has gone way down at a pretty alarming rate. Some of that's just traceable to the birth rate. My grandparents came from Italy. My mother's mom and dad had 6 kids in South Philly. My father's mom and dad had 6 kids. And that was pretty typical. I wasn't even considered all that big of a family. So some of it's just simply traceable to declining birth rates. Some of it, the enrollment drop in certain areas was attributable to demographic shifts, folks that in really heavily Catholic areas where I was before coming here. You know, like I told you that before, we had 15 parishes. We still have 15 parishes in about a 1.5-mile circle in South Philadelphia. We had 11 grade schools, and then one closed right before I left, down to 10 in that 1.5-mile circle. It used to be loaded with Catholics. It used to be loaded with kids when my folks grew up down there. No more. Finance is a huge issue. Subsidy, labor, I kind of put those 3 together, and you've heard this before. You know, obviously, another thing we lost was a pretty cheap labor force, right? When I was a kid, St. Lawrence School, Upper Darby, in the 60s, mostly nuns. It was a big deal, right? It was exciting when you got a lay teacher. And very, very quickly, that's, you know, rather a short period of time, that shifted. But now it's rare to find a religious sister at our schools. What a great gift they gave to this archdiocese for years and years and years, right? That was the subsidy of their heart and their soul and their time and their life energy to this, right? Beautiful, beautiful gift. They were our free labor force. As that shifted, of course, for lots of different reasons, the cost of operating these schools went way up. And we tried to hold on to the notion of subsidized education. And as I've said to you when I first got here, my first parent meeting in September, one of the huge things that has closed school after school after school after school is the difference between what we charge in tuition and the actual cost per student, which I think this year is, maybe around, that subsidy is probably around $1,500 per student, something like that. If you have 2 children here, that gets bigger. But when we do our budgeting, we have to figure out where we're going to get those thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. The year before I got here, I think it was over. Mary was about 300,000 the year before I got here.
is at $300,000. Last year, for tons and tons of reasons, I went way, way, way down to maybe $160,000. So we were managing the school about that. But still, we do our budgeting to try and find that, right? That fact closed school after school after school. Of the 49 schools, and you probably might have seen this in the paper, all but 8 of them had significant financial difficulties. All but 8 of them. I'm surprised this bottom one in parentheses was not in the news. Very quietly, we got a fax from the Archdiocese a month ago. Those of you who are high school parents of high school kids know this, right? No more subsidy to the high schools. I don't know what it was this past year, but I bet you it's close to $1,000, $800, or something like that. The diocese sent a fax out because so many of our parishes are in serious financial trouble and are not paying into the central system, right? They don't have the money. So fax went out that no more subsidy for the high schools. Why are we on the list? Now, what I'm going to tell you next is part speculation on my part, but part of it is information that I got from kind of behind the curtain from folks that I know that on the Blue Ribbon Commission. We were on the list. We were discussed at that Blue Ribbon Commission. Why we weren't on the final list that came on January 6th is, I think the biggest reason is that we got our financial house in order. Had we not done that, and we had still owed hundreds of thousands of dollars for our loan for this building, right? We would have been on that list. Because somebody has to pay for that, right? So I think the biggest reason that we were not on the list is because very quickly we demonstrated that we could become financially stable. And it is amazing. You've heard me speak about this before. I've been here a year and a half, maybe a little more than that now. In that time, we paid back hundreds of thousands of dollars of back interest. Remember, not only did we not make any mortgage payments on principal, we didn't even make an interest payment for a couple of years. And I thank everybody for that because it was a huge and wonderful community effort, right, to get that done. I think that's one of the big reasons. And as I said in the pulpit, we were chosen to go into the future. I put in parentheses, well, yeah, maybe, but you know what, really, we made a choice collectively. We chose to go into the future, right? If folks in this room and the broader parish did not choose to get on board with all of the programs that we implemented to get ourselves in order, we would have been on the list. We would be telling a different story right now with our school. So we really chose as a community to go into the future. The results, we got 49 closed, okay. 18 were granted a reprieve. Between those two, I have people parent out. We've all watched these news, and there were awesome stories in the news. What happened from January 6th, when 49 schools are closed, right? In just a few weeks, 18 granted a reprieve, another 4 high schools. It was amazing. It's amazing. You had little St. Cyril's in East Lansdowne that threatened to close, about 8 or 9 years ago? They made the news, right? 8 or 9 years ago, they raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. They got their house in order, and they had, remember, they had a student who was sick and dying about 8 or 9 years ago. And the only one of us is school stayed. Well, that community rallied around that emotional energy, and they found a way. They found a way to do it. St. Cyril's was on the list again. St. Cyril's were now tiny little East. Anybody know East Lansdowne? This is not an affluent area at all. I don't know how we did it. Once again, raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in weeks, right? So that when they made their appeal, they could make their appeal from a position of strength. Monsignor Bonner, my alma mater, in Drexel Hill, $5 million? How did they do that? Wow. And that number for the 4 high schools that ended up being saved was $12 million by the time they made the announcement and very quickly with pledges to over $15 million. People wanted the schools. And I think people found that all of a sudden that changed people's energy, right? We want the schools, you know this. We know this in our own lives. If you really, really want something, you find a way to do it. Come on, it's just the way it is. If I really, really want something, I'm going to knock through brick walls and I'll find a way to get it done. If I really, really want it, if it's really, really valuable. The awesome thing about this story is it's a great statement about our schools that many, many people in difficult circumstances in a down economy said, wow, this is valuable to me. I really, really want this. And I'm going to do what I haven't done before. Here's the key. It was people power, it was parent power that turned those schools around, especially the grade schools, right? Because there were not a lot of big money people at the 18 grade schools that got it. The high schools, there were some big money folks, but also lots of little donations. But the grade schools, that was not the story. Grade schools were alumni and parents and families who got together. Many people who had never done anything before, who were content to sit on the sidelines, right? Because they knew if they didn't do that, their school was going to go away. Awesome story. Where are we now? I'm talking about in the big picture. I'm using a little hanging fruit. I can guarantee you there's been a lot of reprieves that were granted. They're not all going to make it. Even if all 49 had closed, over the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to see more schools are going to close. Because some of these regional schools are not going to work. Some of that energy is going to fade. Some of the folks that said they could make an enrollment thing, right? Three categories of schools. This goes back to the Blue Ribbon Commission report. It spoke about 3 categories. Schools with 250 plus students, 500 plus, and 700 plus. When you hear this, it makes it more remarkable that we were not on the list. We don't fit into any of those categories. What do we have? 215? And by the way, they don't count pre-K. If you take our way pre-K, what are we? 190? Something like that? Wow, we're not even close. Why are these numbers? Did they pick them out of thin air? No. Because if you go under 250 kids, right, it becomes, it's not financially viable. It's very, very challenging to make a school financially viable, right? Because every student you lose, you're losing tuition income. And you have to find a way to make that money, right? When you go up to 500, actually, you have more staff, you have more teachers, right? It becomes relative. And there's been a lot of research, and they didn't pull this out of thin air. This is a lot of old work that's been done. These numbers that you need to have viable schools. Okay, because of everything I just said, and because all the forces that were there before, that were driving this massive downside, they're still there. Absolutely, they are still there. Here's my point. We cannot stay the same. We can't stay at 215 students. We can't stay where we're at right now. We have got to reinvent ourselves. Take everything that's good and great, and there is a lot of good and great here, and we're going to hear more about this tonight, and build on that and reinvent and recreate. Preserve what's good and create new ways. Listen, no way we're going to do that, though, unless we recreate what the schools who were granted reprieve did. You are power. It's done by parent power, people power, person power. And part of this meeting tonight is to try and help everyone to see that reality so that we can all go out tonight and to try and energize the rest of the folks who are not here tonight to get involved, to partner with us to recreate the school. Facing the possibility of failure. I've been a priest for 22 years. I can't tell you how many weddings I've done. Early on, one of the things I start to talk about to glossy-eyed, engaged couples who are 25 years old coming in for their first meeting to make their wedding arrangements, you know what I talk about? Somewhere in that hour and a half meeting, I talk about the 50% divorce rate. You know why? Not just because it's a reality, because if folks don't face that reality, I'm using the small business analogy too. You start a small business, what's the failure rate of small businesses? 80-some%, right? You go into that marriage and, oh, you know what, we love each other. It's not, that's never going to happen to us. Oh, yeah, we love each other, it's never going to happen to us. Don't even bring that up. I don't have to think about that. It's just, we just have something that's so special, it's never going to fail, right? And 3 years later, they're in divorce court. And people get afraid of this kind of talk, facing the possibility of failure. I will tell you right now, I'm not here to pretend that I can guarantee you that 10 years St. Basil's going to be here. I don't have a crystal ball, right? When I met with our staff, I was here 2 weeks, real tough meeting with everyone. Right? And all I'm doing is bad news. A lot of people didn't even know, right? Asking people to take pay cuts. I had a turnaround plan in place, right? Here's what, boo, 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 boo. I said to everybody in that meeting, we got 1 year to turn us around, we have to close the school. And everybody begged me, please don't say that from the pulpit. And I didn't say it from the pulpit, although I wasn't quite sure I agree with that, right? I don't think it's a good idea to be afraid to talk about that possibility. Because there's the possibility of failure. Somewhere in there, you get the opportunity for the possibility of success. You know what I mean? Okay. And this is why I talk to couples, who engaged couples, right? Having a sense that it's possible for your marriage to fail, having a sense that it's possible for your business to fail, that doesn't make you a victim. That makes you a more active agent in its success and empowers you to make choices. Wow, I have a stake in this. This is more precious to me now, right? This can, in the best spirit of facing that, make me, look, my marriage is frail, I love frail. So I'm going to do everything I can do to protect our love and to protect this marriage. My business is frail, I'm going to do everything I can do. Do you get what I'm getting at? There's a sense of spirit to approach that information that's not scary, doesn't make people feel down and negative, but wow, I stand in between the possibility of failure and the possibility of success. Not some set of circumstances, I stand in between those two realities. And guess what? We have real data right here about the power of that. Because we did it here. In a year and a half, an amazing turnaround. So saying that, facing the possibility of failure, I am absolutely convinced that that does not have to be an eventuality. I can't do it myself, our teachers can't do it, our staff can't do it, we're small. But we know as the power of this community, and guess what, folks, we have really talented folks here. People with phenomenal educational backgrounds, all kinds of skill sets, all kinds of job experience, people who've been bringing those to the table already, right? Who've transformed many things around here. From the websites to building and grounds to our finance committee to all kinds of things. You're a talented group with enormous gifts, right? And because people have been bringing them to bear already, this is very, very, very possible. Okay, so why would we do it? Why would we try and energize everyone to think newly about this and to get more people involved in partnering with the Recreating the School? Well, we just saw it. Our kids are awesome. We have a great school. We're providing, in a time when they're going away quickly, a faith-based educational alternative. It's good for the parish. In addition, though, I'm talking about the common good. People miss this. I had a conversation with a parishioner who uses the public school system here, which is, you have a great public school system, I understand that. who thought that every time a kid went into a Catholic school, that somehow that took money out of the public school system. Right? Now, the reality is the opposite. If St. Basil's closed and Holy Family, the regional school closed, and 600 and some kids had to go into the local public school system, Phoenixville's, I was on their website the other day, their school budget's around $75 million this year. 600 and some kids at whatever their actual cost per student is, right? You're talking millions of dollars. Who's going to pay for that? Millions of dollars, right? The vast percentage from their website of that $75 million comes from your real estate taxes, right? Your school taxes. Our church has been subsidizing low taxes, especially in the city of Philadelphia, to an enormous degree, right? But also out in the counties. We don't talk about that enough, but we're doing a service to the community by providing an alternative, faith-based alternative education, and also helping out with keeping people's taxes low. Why? How? I already talked about this. How do we do this? The only way is people power, parent power. Now let me say something else about this. One of the blessings of the way that grade schools are organized is this. Our high school system is centrally administrated. Right? So it's run by downtown, by the Office of Catholic Education. They have very little autonomy at our Catholic high schools, Shanahan, John Paul II, for example. Right? The grade schools are entirely different. We have enormous flexibility here. We're a small school. We are not rigidly governed by downtown. We have enormous autonomy, right? They have all kinds of policies and procedures in place, but guess what? The office of pastor has an enormous amount of autonomy from that. There's all kinds of policies and procedures and things they may want us to follow that literally I can say, as Father Gary sitting the pastor here, while I'm the pastor here, I'm going to choose to do this, I'm going to choose to ignore that. The upside of that is that gives us amazing flexibility to think outside of the box and to recreate this. Because we are not rigidly governed by central administration like the high schools. That they want to get creative and come up with ideas. And I watched this before, by the way. I've watched our high school presidents and principals get really frustrated as they come up with a great idea that they want to run with. And this happened in South Philadelphia at Beretti before it became New and Gray. They went out and they got this phenomenal new entrepreneurial president who was looking to bus kids in and alternate funding and sorry, you can't do that. Sorry, you can't do that. Sorry, you can't do that. And the lady left in about a year. She left the law career to do this, right? It's different in the grade schools. It's a lot different. We have a lot more freedom and flexibility, which is awesome. Say all things are possible, right? Because, people say these things. Oh, we can't do anything anymore. We can't raise any more money. We can't blah, 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 blah. We can't. Just came in the news this week. Awesome story. 91-year-old man. I'm sorry. That's wrong. He's 98 now. He was a fisherman all his life in New England. And he always wanted to learn how to read. Never knew how to read. Did you see the story? When he was 91, 7 years ago, he learned how to read. He's in the news today because 7 years later, at the age of 98, he published a book. He wrote a novel. Is that a great story? At 98 years old, he wrote a book. Wow. Everybody would understand. What does that show? You know what? We're amazing creatures. You put your mind to it, you have the will, the desire. Amazing things are possible. Dan, can you come over? We don't have, there's lots of folks here who have great stories to tell like Dan's. I can't ask everybody to come up, so please don't be offended. I just can't mention everybody's names. So we're just picking one example of, can you?
I don't have the preacher voice. I'm very glad, too, that I was not the 91-year-old man you were talking about. Maybe I'll learn to read that. I don't know. Okay. Father asked me to talk about some things that were actually even going on this week. To start out, I guess, about 10 years ago, or 11, maybe even 12 years ago now, I think my oldest son was in 3rd grade. I got this crazy. No? Can't hear me? Is that better?
I don't think that's on.
Check. Yeah, my son taught me how to do that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so about 12 years ago, I judged with my company. I volunteered to judge about science fair. Big, huge science fair. It was like 1,000 projects, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I go, well, why can't our kids do this? There's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade kids there, and I was like, this is pretty cool. And it just kind of stuck in my head, and brought it to Mrs. Lesky, who shows my age now. So, principal. Yeah. And anyway, I proposed the idea, and it was like, it took a little while. We talked to the whole school committee and everything else, and we were able to get the science fair started. I think got a lot of feedback at first. Parents thought, oh, this is too much, this is a lot for the kids. But kind of pressed forward, and after that first science fair, all the parents came and were like, wow, this is pretty cool. All these kids did all this great work on all these projects. A lot of that to Mrs. Wire, who actually teaches the science. And what we did, we worked out a good partnership, helped get the science fair going and get the judges. One of our fine judges here is here as we speak. 10 years in a row, I think he's been helping us. So science fair is one of these things. It was just something that I knew I could do. And I kind of pushed forward and tried to do it so that we had something a little extra at St. Basil's. This week, 13 kids are going to the Chester County Science Fair. I don't know, I guess the awards are tonight, right?
Yeah, tomorrow.
And then tomorrow, 4th and 5th grade. 6th grade went today, tomorrow 4th and 5th grade. So that's one example where it was me with a crazy idea, and all parents needed me for a little while. Maybe still, I don't know. Going through the science fair, I've done it a lot. I have 5 kids. My oldest now is a senior in Champaign. I have a sophomore in Champaign. I have 3 kids here. My daughter's in 8th grade, 4th grader, 2nd grader. So I've got a lot of kids. And so I lived through the pain of science fair also. We also have History Day. And I think Dr. Rufo started that one at the same time. So there's 7th and 8th graders now doing History Day. This past weekend at Immaculata University, the regional history fair, I think we sent 10 kids, or maybe more. I don't know how many exactly. 5 of them are moving on to Pennsylvania State History Fair competition. Another thing that also happens is Odyssey of Mind. We have a team of 7 kids. They're 7th and 8th graders now. Last year they competed in the Odyssey of Mind competition, and Odyssey of Mind is kind of a creative thinking type competition, and it's a lot of fun. They work for a long time, starting from like October, and they're given a problem, and they have to come up with a skit and costumes and everything all by themselves, and then they have to perform the skit and do it within 8 minutes, and have to use all kinds of creativity in that. That's a long-term problem, and they have a spontaneous problem that they're given at the time. Last year they got 3rd place. This year they got 2nd place, and that team is moving on to the Odyssey of the Mind state competition. So our students do great, and it's actually anything that parents can do. Parents are a big part of science fair. I mean, I remember the first year, some kid grew bean plants, and they had it on the dining room table, and then they realized they were going to have to keep bean plants there over Christmas. They had to move the Christmas dinner. So the parents definitely sacrifice. History Day, taking the kids to the library, making sure that they get the things that they need. finding out what the primary source is. I mean, all these things are just crazy, and the parent support is definitely needed. Not just for regular school, but these extra things, and that's what makes our school special. So, yes.
Beginning the reinvention, take away the now. What does that mean? When we had Catholic schools weekend and we had speakers at each of the masses, a woman came up to me. I was at that door greeting folks as they were leaving. A woman came up to me and said, very nice. She said, I just want to give you some feedback. She said, this is about 8 or 9 years ago. I had my daughter in school for a short period of time, 3 or 4 months. I lost my job very unexpectedly. Thank God I got one quickly. But all of a sudden, I needed a CARES program, which we did not have at the time. She said, that's the only reason I left your school. I loved it here. Right? Just want to give you that feedback. So here's someone who said yes first, and then said no. What I mean by that is we're starting to do, if someone leaves our school, to ask them why, do exit interviews, so to speak, because that information is so valuable to us. Or if folks come in and check our school out, we'd like to know, why did you choose to send them someplace else? Because sometimes it's something really silly. Right? So we need to take away the no's. I'm saying no to St. Basil's because they don't have. From some of that information, here's some things that are on our list of this reinvention plan. Some of these are going to take more time than others, and are in no particular order. We want to create a junior high area in the school. That's one we think we can do rather quickly. We would move the classrooms around and take the wing where the pre-K is now, where the library is now, and have the 7th and 8th grade, and create the 7th and 8th grade junior high. It's becoming more important for helping to have kind of an adjustment period for kids before they go to high school. And you have a little bit different way of dealing with the kids and different discipline and different positive reinforcements. Pete Lynch is here tonight. He got me information. We've talked about this, about putting lockers in the hallway, making a little archway, separating this area, doing what we need to do to create a junior high for our 7th and 8th grade students. So it's a little bit easier for them when they transition into high school. Morning cares. That's in the works already. Because for some folks, that's a deal breaker. They have to go to work early. They have to drop their kids off early. We have to have this. Daycare. This could take a while. One of the best things I did at Annunciation to turn that school around was started the daycare. From serious daycare, with 10-week-old babies, right? We expanded pre-K from 4 years old to 3 and 4, daycare from 10 weeks old up to 3 years old. 3 years old, you can either be in the daycare or be in the pre-K. We did that, first we did that because it was the only thing in the school that operated on a profit, not at a loss, right? Everything else in these schools with the subsidy operated on a loss. The massive unintended consequence was it created our own feeder system. Because folks would come into the school and they're there for 3 years and some of them at least would like what they saw. And they stayed. And you can see that now, if you go back and look at Annunciation, the lower grades, enrollment's much, much, much higher than the upper grades. That's tracing that right back to when we started daycare. So Pete and I and Jonathan had talked about another project. In order to do that, we need to remodel the other part of the lower level, which, as Dominic told me, because you were here when they were doing that project, it was originally designed to close that in for classroom space anyway. We want to do that. Pete's a contractor, but he tells me there's other contractors amongst our parents that, because this would be a great example of one of these projects, right? That we could get parents who are contractors, firsters who are contractors, to chip in. Maybe we can get donations to drywall and whatever else we need, and folks who know how to do that kind of work, and pull that project off in a relatively inexpensive way. No, at school. You know how last year, good question. Last year, the Eagle Scout project, they took the one side of the lower level, did a beautiful job, right, of creating extra classroom space. Now I'm talking about where the science lab is and art, right, on that side, to wall that in and to create classrooms there.
I think it's designed for 3.
Designed for 3 on that side. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's a huge space. We need to get to that. And that was brilliant that you guys did that. That you built up. I know it cost a lot of extra money, but there's capacity for growth right there. And that's already, and there's a plan for that already. If anybody's been down there, you see the pipes coming out of the ground for the kitchen area. You see the pipes over there for the bathroom area. A lot of the work was done. Right? The things that needed to be roughed out already, designed for it to be a parish hall, right? That we could use for all kinds of things. Definitely not envisioned to be a school space, but a parish hall. But you know what?
That was $1.5 million extra to do that.
Don was just saying $1.5 million extra dollars to do that.
The township said that if you don't do it now, don't come back 5 years from now. You want to put more ground.
Because we're maxed out. Our permeable surface, we can't do any more building, right? We're maxed out. With our 500 some art space. So there, resource room. We need a resource room. We cannot afford a resource room with 215 students, right? But there's other ways to get this done. There's another. Yes. Yeah, you're talking with an idea of you're getting a teacher's certificate. That we have other folks, parents who are certified teachers. Maybe we can do this through volunteerism to create a resource room. We have to have a resource room. One of the things the Blue Ribbon Commission talked about with these schools, by the way, in order to have a successful school that has a chance at sustainability, you got to have all the bells and whistles today. Can't do it. You got to have all the bells and whistles, right? Which we have a lot of them here, but we have to expand it. Our meeting awards. Okay. We have a representative. I'm sorry to keep you waiting so long. He's going to talk to us for a couple minutes. The meeting boards are the interactive whiteboards. This goes to a technology deficit that we have here, right? We clearly have a technology deficit in our school. And what's become so common, and even many of the other Catholic schools around here have these interactive whiteboards, right? I won't mention the company, the other company that makes them. But so could you address this? Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Hi everybody. My name is Bruce McClellan. My company is Applied Video Technology. We're actually located in Malvern. We're an AV system integration company, so we do a lot of large-scale AV projects, but our primary work in marketing is a lot of work with K through 12 schools. So we're in and out of a lot of schools, and one of the products we represent and we install a lot of these classrooms, especially in the K through 12 sector, is meeting boards. So that's how Bill identified us and contacted us because he found out or had some interest in Median. And I don't know what the current state of technology is in St. Basil's, but we're obviously in and out of a lot of schools, and and I think today, especially with the cost of technology coming down, it's kind of expected. I think when parents look in the classroom and kids going to school, that there's some sort of technology, especially it's pretty much become standard teaching technique nowadays to have some kind of interactive display at the front of the classroom with a projection system. And that's what the community boards are. So obviously there's a couple of pieces of that. It's the interactive whiteboard, which essentially is just a marker board, but it's touch enabled, so you can work that as well as a projector. And that's the basic AV functionality. But the pieces that kind of set the Legion apart from other companies, like I said, smart, most people refer to them as smart boards, just because that's kind of the name that it gives them, but that's just another company. But Promethean kind of has separated itself in the ability with the software and everything that goes along with that. So with every Promethean board that gets installed, you also get what's called the Active Inspire software license, which goes on to the teacher's PC that sits in the classroom. And there's a lot of teaching tools that go hand in hand with that. So Promethean has already worked in one of the states they work with is the state of Pennsylvania. So they design a lot of teaching tools that are geared right around the state standards for all different grades, K through 12. So those are already included in there. So that helps to ease the burden on teachers, obviously. And they also give a lot of online expertise where you can interact with other teachers in other districts and things like that, and share teaching materials. So it really, I guess, makes the teaching process that much easier because there's just, it doesn't separate you and this school from it and make itself its own entity. You know, especially when you're talking about everything that's going on right now and you're trying to make yourself more attractive to students and parents and things like that. Technology and how different teaching techniques, I think, are very important that you need to have in the classroom nowadays because it really looks kind of antiquated anymore if you walk in the classroom without all these new AV technology and things like that, teaching tools, and these software mechanisms that I think a lot of students and parents are expecting that is part of the teaching process. So, and as we move down this path with St. David's, we want to, the next process, the next part of the process is obviously we need to start showing off the software and things like that. We're going to do it tonight, but it's not really the right environment to kind of show software off in a large environment like this. So we'll work with the teachers. I think it's not really the teachers who are but so we'll start working with the teachers on that, start showing the technology. So we're looking at some questions. So I just kind of wanted to introduce our company to you guys and kind of talk about the technology that's out there and how it can be implemented into St. Basil's. Questions or?
I don't want to pin down on this because I know we're looking at becoming a customer, but your newer machines that have multi-touch, like they do on CNN, they go
correct. Yeah.
Just can you give us like low and high range of one of those costs?
The multi-touch, so the boards themselves with interactivity is not, they have packages now that range from $1,500 to $2,000, and that includes like a projector and the board and everything like that, and software license. So, and then obviously installation costs and cabling and all that's not included there. But the hardware costs themselves have come down so substantially over the last couple of years. That's why it's kind of accepted standard practice now to have AV in every single classroom because, I mean, yeah, the new license is under $100 per license. So, I mean, and that just enables you obviously to continue logins and passwords for your internet access and any software updates and support things like that. I really can't comment on that until I actually see each collector and see how long it's going to take to do each installation. Obviously, that varies. In a typical session setup, though, we're in about 2 hours. So, and, I mean, if we're talking rates, I mean, our standard education install rates are $125 an hour. So, I mean, like I said, we could probably, in real ballpark numbers, do a professional under $2,500 or something like that. So those are just obviously numbers to keep in mind, but it's not, obviously there's a lot of factors that go into that, but just to have some number along the way with it. Well, actually, we didn't do the installation. I was telling you that Phoenixville actually has committee boards at East Pikeland, but we didn't do the installation. Phoenixville was all their own installation. They just buy product, so they just bought the boards. But you could probably, also if you talk to the principal at East Pikeland, you have to take a look. Some people here can take a look at them. The hardware isn't really what you want to look at anyway. It's really the software that sets it apart. I mean, any interactive touchscreen can do that. So, I mean, that's just a matter of putting a basic projector in the flashlight and a touchscreen or the the largest is 96-inch diagonal, I think, and they run. The most standard size, I believe, is the 85, 86-inch diagonal range. I don't know those questions. But they're right. They have 3 or 4 different sizes, depending on the aspect ratio of the projector. There's some other pieces that go with that, but I mean, those are basic sizes. Well, what actually happens is the way the board communicates back to the computers over USB interface. So, but that's all low voltage stuff. The only high voltage you need to have would be electrical at the projector location. Those projectors can either be hung in the ceiling, off a pole, shooting, or like a short throw projector, an actual one that sticks off the wall and shoots back. There's some benefits, obviously. The biggest difference is the cost. Maybe short throw projectors that lights obviously cost a lot more, but those short throw projectors also, especially when the teachers stand there, there's a lot of added benefits there. You get more brightness and punch off the screen, you get less shadow on the back. So, but you can look, obviously, the biggest difference is the price.
We're going to look at the short throw projectors because we were looking at the cost of hanging those things from the ceiling, and when we got into the pipes and stuff like that, and we had the electrical quote that was needed, it was going to cost us just to do the work $6,000 a classroom, not even buying stuff like this. So if you heard like $2,500 for the low throw projector, and you just plug into an alley, we can get a lower price point than if we went the other route. So, because those older classrooms that with the high ceilings and stuff, they present a problem. Now they're using the wireless infrastructure. And our old aging technology is really in our classrooms. It's the teachers, they have like 9 or 10-year-old laptops that are just hanging on by a thread, as well as the computer lab. It's about 10 years old now too, which we got. The computer lab is all done through county grants. So hopefully we can try to get that. But the promising point is that what we have with our technology stuff, is we can get computer equipment at cost, which is huge. It beats the educational discount. We buy software licenses. Like if you go down the street with what you're paying for office, like $179, $129, guess how much you pay for it? $5. Okay, because of the price that we get. All right, so some of the stuff. The other thing we have to look at is sort of the whole complexity stuff is a safe environment training. Okay, we have to now archive email conversations between parents, students, and everything, and we get to a strategy in place on that. That's going to cost us some money, and we're looking at some solutions. So there's a lot of complexity stuff that's going on with that. What I saw working with Mike and finance committee, what I see that are big is that we got to get these boards to the school because it's a deal breaker in my mind. What the parents expect us when we go and look at stuff. We got to give the teachers new laptops, and probably have to replace the lab. Probably not order. We probably make the lab last at least another year if you have to. I don't want us to be a dumping ground for all. Everybody's just saying, we're going to throw them. I got computers here, I got computers here. There's only myself and a couple people on that, so we build what we call standardized images, and that's based on hardware base. So I can deploy 60 computers in a couple hours. If I had to do 60 different miles, it's going to take me a month. And we have limited resources. Paul's talked about resources to do it, and we're trying to do as much as we can what we can. come and hold his company. So if there's problems in his company, we standardize on the practices that his company does, so that his support folks can help us out and then not come from work anymore, you know, or tell them he's over the phone, so what you want to do, etc. And hopefully we get the problems. So, and we have some older things, like I think we have problems with the old ballasts in the old part of the school that's interfering with some of the wireless internet. We're not sure about that yet. So.
Thank you very much. Bill, thank you for everything. Our communications committee, and there's some members here, have just done an amazing job. They're the ones responsible for rebuilding the website, which is just an amazing website. And also all the upgrading infrastructure. And Bill's not even a school parent. Kids, Bill sees the value of our school beyond being a school parent, which is awesome. We have a lot of folks that are not school parents that helps out. Okay. One more guest speaker. Beth. This is an enormous thing that started under when Dr. Rufo was still here, advisory board, as part of our recreation. Beth will speak to us about it.
Just wish I was a little taller, that's all. I'm going to use my parent voice then. Can you hear me in the back? Okay, for those of you who were at the September Home and School meeting, I guess we spoke a little bit about the advisory board. I think Father really phrased it correctly when he said that we've been given sort of a permission to go forward. We've been given a vote of confidence as a school to move forward, but that gives us a lot of challenges. And I've always been a big believer that wherever there are challenges, there are also opportunities. So the advisory boards. In 2008, the Archdiocese of Philadelphia suggested that each of their high schools and elementary schools should have advisory boards. And those advisory boards would be comprised of people both within the community, within the school community, within the parish, within the greater community in which the school resides. And the role of those advisory boards would be to provide advice and counsel as needed to the pastors and principals of the schools. Advisory boards were instituted first in the high school structure, and they've come down now and have been, more recently, have become part of the elementary school structure. So as a result of the strategic plan that was put together about 18 months ago, St. Basil the Great constituted an advisory board. And the role of that advisory board is to work with the pastor, the principal, the administration of the school to provide advice on such things as the role of Catholic identity in academic programming, to ensure financial sustainability, to look at the interplay between enrollment, marketing, and what that means to our financial picture going forward, to help expand the role of the school from a community perspective, to make sure that the school is visible to the community, not only from a development perspective to other, possible foundations and others that might fund the school, but also to the broader populace. So I was asked by my father to chair the advisory board in its initial years, and I've been honored to do that. The advisory board today has about 20 people on it. As I mentioned earlier, we have pulled and asked individuals to serve on that advisory board who represent not only current parents of school children, but also past parents of school children, and people from the wider community who have an interest in seeing St. Basil the Great sustain itself as a school. We've had about 2 meetings so far. We're about to have our third this coming week. But the real strength of the advisory board is really in its networking amongst the community to help ensure that its strategic goals are met. So what I'm asking tonight is that you, as interested people who have an interest in the school and St. Basil and seeing its sustainability, volunteer to work with us on a variety of different areas. We're looking for people to work with us on looking at the academic programs as well as the role of Catholic identity in the school. We're looking for people who can help us market, who can get the word out about St. Basil's and to help create ideas and opportunities for us to sustain school. We're looking for involvement from a financial perspective. Meaning people who will serve on a finance committee to help us again make sure that we have financial sustainability and that we're looking at the right opportunities to help us ensure the sustainability going forward. So I'd like to thank those of you who are serving on the advisory board presently. There's several of you that are here this evening. And I also encourage any parent who has an interest, or any community member or parish member who has an interest in working with the advisory board, to work with us to strengthen strengthen the community going forward. So, thank you very much.
A little bit on the principal search. We've got a lot of questions about that. We have a search committee in place. We're doing some interviews next week. The number of candidates has changed, though, drastically because some of the schools close by that were going to be regionalized and folks were going to be out of a job, they no longer are. So I've been in touch with Sacred Heart in Royersford, St. Monica's in Berlin, St. Pat's in Mallory, St. Cornelius, St. Pat's in Kennett Square. They were the closest schools that were all on the hit list, right? But because of the appeals process, so we have less folks to draw from. Anyway, that is a process, and we're evaluating folks and have a meeting next week. We'll keep you posted on that. Just wanted to say a few words about that. Okay, collegiate model financing. As I said to you before, one of the biggest school killers has been the fact that these schools are structured to lose money, right? And the disparity between the actual cost per student and what we charge. Where this is going quickly across the country, here in the diocese, is to the more collegiate model financing, which works great. Colleges will usually their tuition will be above the actual cost per student, right? Well, we would probably use a more modest version of that, where your tuition is your cost per student. And that's going to vary, obviously, on how many kids you have in the building. So this year, probably $4,700 or something like that per student. The model's based on, okay, you have your price based on its cost-based tuition. And then you work a lot harder to find ways for people to pay that. And those of you kids in college know the game, right? Tuition's $40,000. How many people are paying the $40,000? Because they're getting a grant, they're getting this, they're getting a loan, they're getting a scholarship. EITC. I'm very, very familiar with EITC. EITC is Educational Improvement Tax Credit. This is huge. We have to grow this year, and we have to grow this fast. When we lost the vouchers battle the first time in the state of Pennsylvania, they created the EITC. And what the EITC does is, let's say you own a business, and we have a fair amount of business owners in this parish, and you have to pay the state of Pennsylvania $5,000 for, say, capital stock franchise tax. You got to write that check to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? And you're probably going to waste a lot of your money. That's the nature of government. This program is amazing. You sign up, short form, one of the shortest forms I've ever seen, like 10 or 12 questions. You get approved by the state, your business, right? You have 60 days to write the check. You write your check for $5,000 to either Blocks or the Chester County Foundation for Catholic Education. You get a letter from the government, thank you for paying your taxes through this program. You get a 90% tax credit, right? So they're promoting a little bit of philanthropy. What happens to that money now? It's sitting there with that foundation. You designate it to St. Basil's. And our parents get to apply for it based on state criteria. And the state criteria is very generous. This is not just for the inner cities. Now, for example, if you have, I think it's on in front of me, let's say 4 kids where it maxes out, I believe, and you make $99,999, you can qualify for this. If you have one less, it's down $10,000, right? So it's a very generous qualifying rate. Since I knew this program, and this was an enormous part of when I was in the inner city, turning that school around, we raised thousands and thousands of dollars through this. We were giving away anywhere from $60,000 to $90,000 a year in tuition vouchers to parents, right? The legislators call this a backdoor voucher program. We need to grow this. We need somebody to run with it, and we need to go out. We need to solicit people. I went out and got DNB Bank customers back this year. DNB Bank gave us $15,000. Customers gave us $5,000. So we have a pool of $20,000 now for the next round of this. When parents apply for this, that has to come to us, right? This is an awesome thing. Then you also fill in with vouchers. You've heard Archbishop Shafir has been begging folks, right? Begging folks to write their legislators to speak up for vouchers in the state of Pennsylvania. And the opportunity now, with the way that the last election went, is very favorable to us, right? Private scholarships. A lot of schools are doing this. They're reaching out to the alumni, asking them, would you give $100 a year, and you get a pool of private scholarship money, and you dole that out each year as well. We need to grow this. Because we have to influence more collegiate model finance. How many else do we need? I talked about this earlier. We need to remodel this lower level, but we've got a growing list of maintenance projects that have been ignored at the school that we have to take care of, right? And by the way, there's going to be sign-up sheets tonight, but we're also going to ask you to talk this stuff up. Jen Miller's here with sign-up sheets. I think Beth has some sign-up sheets. If you can help with any of these committees, please do. Increase alumni outreach, increase funding. We need to do this. Okay. We're going to keep going. We're trying to get everybody out of here in the next 2 minutes. Input, questions, comments.
I'm a fairly newer parent to the school, and we came up with a comprehensive list of great ideas, I think. I guess I'm not aware, I'm interested in knowing, besides like joining a committee, if I had an idea like Brandon on science fair that I thought was good for the school, what's the medium to communicate that to somebody, besides like a formal committee? Something like that, or just having parent input on something the school's doing, or something like that.
And this is the other great thing about a small school, a small administration, is right now. I'm acting co-principal, and Mary's doing all the work, and Jen. Call us, right? I think people got this about me already. Unless there's some serious reason, some serious impediments, people coming forward and asking me to do things. I love that. Let's run with it, right? You got a good idea. Unless there's some serious reason we can't do it. In other words, there's not 7 committees and all kinds of obstacles, and you got to wait 6 months for it to come around to the. It's pretty streamlined. And that's the benefit of the small school. Yep. Yeah, depending on how that goes, we might move that elsewhere, but still would have a science lab, right? We might move that space. Because I think there's a little more space there now than we currently need, so we might condense that and condense the art a little bit. Thanks. Questions, comments?
I didn't hear much after you said $4,700.
Okay.
Is that where we're headed? The tuition is going to double? That's what we are.
What's our tuition this year? $32.50. What's our tuition this year? $32.50. The tuition for next year is set. Tuition for next year is set. 32 something, right? What I'm saying is, I don't know over how many period of years, but we have to move towards cost-based tuition, right? If we want the school, because again, that is what's been the school killer after school killer after school killer, right? That's why what was the challenge to all those schools that turned it around? What was the most? They raised a ton of money, right? They raised a ton of money to combat that deficit.
Are there grade schools in this community where if you are a teacher there, I'm interested in knowing if the children of the teachers go tuition free. I mean, is there a standard for grade schools? Like, do some, if you teach there, your children go for a lower cost?
I don't know in terms of Catholic schools in Chester County. I do not know the answer to that. If you didn't hear that question, is there a standard where? Now remember, the grade schools because they're run by the pastors and autonomy, man, those kinds of policies are so different. Just as you find different, although they're getting closer and closer, do you find different tuition rates based on the parish to parish, right? They're closer than they used to be, but I don't know the answer to that.
Because I have a brother who teaches in a Catholic school in Wayne, and there are people that actually travel from out near Kingston to go to that school, I think, for some kind of tuition break that they teach there. But I'm not sure. I'm just asking in general.
I don't know the answer to that. The problem with all those kinds of things is they're great, but somebody has to pay for it. And when you do the budgeting, a lot of times either somebody's paying for it or you're cutting something, right? But I don't know the answer to that. In South Philadelphia, where I was, it was pretty unheard of. But I don't know what that is out here. Good question. Yeah. Right. Yep. As you know, that's another great thing, our communication Bill here, see Andy, and they've been helping us, and Marianne. It's been a huge task now because we were not that heavily, we didn't have a lot of data, so we've been populating this database. You've seen in the bulletin, we've been asking people to go on now, have access. I don't think we're at the point yet that we know. Andy, did you answer that? What we know? Everybody's occupations and stuff?
No.
Right. Yeah.
Let me ask you that. Okay, show of hands. How many people have been in this room have gone and registered in church and updated their information?
Awesome.
Okay, about 70%. Good. That's great, because we only have about 241 people that have done that in the parish. And we're trying to get, because those of you that are in business, right, one of the things that you find out is the businesses today with most information and most accurate information have a competitive advantage over their competitors. So we're trying to get that data. So we talked about, Paul and I talked about where we use that data to develop, like with people without jobs, and they know that, they have a certain skill set that a parish and an employer has, and needs that person able to match them up, as well as our resources here. If we can get accurate data from our parishioners, we can start leveraging what you guys are talking about. And that's why we're trying to go after that. And we're actually going to go down to the grassroots after we talked about this last month. But we're going to actually have to go out there and update the data ourselves manually because we see that being so important for us to be able to take that and leverage it where we can. So if we need electricians, for example, I know we have plenty of guys that help out with this, but we can go out there and query the database and say, okay, we need an electrician. Or we need to find alumni, get email addresses, be able to communicate so much easier and flawlessly. And it's also around efficiency, okay? Because we're trying to drive our costs down in not only the school, but the parish, okay? I'll give you an example. We pay, what do we pay, 4 phone bills? 4 telephone bills. And the reason why we do that is because of the way the campus is laid out. As we move to a scenario where we have a centralized hotline, right now I envision it being in a school, where we go voice over IP and service all the phones throughout the rectory, the gym, the school, one other. We would be able to lower our price points down on this thing. The more, for example, we pay for an internet connection in the school, we pay for an internet connection in the rectory. Once we can connect both of them, we're going to save $1,200 a year by not having to pay that bill over the rectory. So we have to get to that point. The more we can collect data, the more that we can work on stuff like that, we're going to be able to lower the cost of doing business for this parish. I'm confident. Thank you.
Well, we've done that with, remember we had the weekends where we had the cards to get email addresses. We've been doing some of that. Oh, and Pete, and to answer your question, if you go Google Blocks, BLOCS, Business Leaders Organized for Catholic Schools. Actually, we're still using that foundation for this program, EITC. If you go Google Blocks, they have all the information about, and the application form for EITC. They're due the next cycle, they're due the end of June, I think, or the beginning of June they want them, and they physically take them up to Harrisburg. Yep. I did a lot of soliciting myself. I would go out, sometimes even make cold calls. And my opening line was, do you like paying taxes? Nobody else paying taxes. But here you're getting to pay your taxes directly to, you know where your money's going, right? It's amazing. Most of the grants that I've applied for over the years, people are paying their taxes to the government. Then you got to get the money from the government through a grant program, right? This is different. This is amazing. The government lets you bypass them and give the money right to the scholarship fund. It's amazing. Nobody knows that. It's amazing. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
I'm curious about what the capacity of the school is. If we make the improvements and we take the bottom level and do daycare and whatnot, how many students can we realistically add to the school?
We could fit around 250 kids in that building. Maybe a little more with this.
One grade or one room per grade?
Well, depending on pre-K, if we're adding, some of these younger grades, like a daycare that maybe 2 and 3 year olds, that kind of thing, right? But probably around 250, give or take a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to go too high, right? Because that's a huge issue. Right, you don't want to go too high, it becomes a huge issue. We're always playing that game, though, right? And we're doing this more now than ever, right? Because if game that we're playing more now than ever, I want to put it that way, what we're attending to more now than ever, as we've seen school after school after school after school after school close, is if we're not tending to the big question, right, the overall health of the school, if we surrender too much of that, okay, we want to have 18 kids in the classroom and that's it, right? Well, the only way to do that is you got to have an enormous tuition to do that, right? So we want to stay on the lower side of that, but it's hard for me to answer that because there are times and situations where you might have to make some accommodations, right? Like you have a lot of parishioners that need to go into a classroom and you don't have enough to start another classroom, right? Because if you do that, geez, it'd be great, but again, it's an enormous cost. And part of my job, and it's not easy, and I had to do it in a major way when I got here, right, was to really make people aware of those kinds of things. Because if we don't do that, they all become moot points because we're not here anymore. But we have to find balance between that, right? The overall health of the institution is staying sustainable. In that. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Definitely would be a number that we would start thinking about capping it. And a waiting list or a common way to solve that problem. You know what I hate about the waiting list? So it's, if any way possible, even if you have enough to create another grade, is what happens to those folks on the waiting list? They end up going to another school, lost them forever. Right? So that plays into that as well. Part of answering that question too is I'm going to want the input on. There's a lot of questions that have to do with specific policies that we want to leave open to our new principal who is coming in. So there's some things that are on hold now. Some judgments and decisions have to be made because I don't want to box the new principal anymore. Right? Other questions? please consider signing up for, Jen, what are the sign-ups? Hammer nails. Right. EITC. Okay, so please take a look on the table. All right, one last thing I have to tell you. This is unbelievable, the serendipitous event happened. Anybody know the Connolly Foundation? Connolly Foundation is huge. Crown, Cork, and Seal, right? Mr. Connolly, he's long gone now. Poor guy came up, started a worldwide giant company. He dies, starts a foundation, the Connolly Foundation. They're based over in Conchie, right? His two daughters run it. They were seated with, I think, $300 and some million. They give away millions of dollars to our schools in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. Right? One of the things they created some years ago was this thing called the Newman Scholar. The Newman Scholarship is awarded to 8th graders, and it's a 4-year scholarship to one of our Catholic high schools in the area, one of the diocesan high schools. It's a great scholarship. You have to qualify just to take the test. Some of you parents here know that because your children had to qualify. So just to take the test is an honor, right? This is how good our school is. How many of our 8th graders qualified? 7 of our 8th graders out of how many? 7 out of 16 qualified to sit for the Newman test, right? That was administered, I believe, in January. This school has never had a Newman Scholar, and it's a big deal for more than the money, because that Connolly Foundation is known all throughout this country. And if you're favored by them, boy, putting that on your resume when you're going to college is enormous. And I've been at the awards banquets, usually at St. Joseph's, and they bring back the old Newman Scholars, and the data on them is amazing. Where they wind up in life, the amount of college scholarships they get. Connolly Foundation calls us a couple days ago, says, doesn't tell us why. We're coming to your school on Thursday, we need you there, we need your pastor there at 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, we're having this meeting tonight. This school's been here how long? There's never been a Newman Scholar at the school. Today, Mrs. Emily Riley, she's one of Mr. Connolly's daughters, shows up and has a meeting with our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and one of our students won the Newman Scholar. 800 kids qualified, roughly, I don't have the exact, 800 and some kids qualified to all of our 60-some thousand students, right? 800 only 800 qualified. They only do 40 a year. Only 17 girls of those 60-some thousand kids won a Newman Scholarship this year, and one of them's here in our school. Should I tell you who it is, or should I let you go? Selena, can you please stand up? Selena. Mrs. Riley talked about, that says a lot about not only the students, Selena, but also the quality of our school and the quality of our teachers. It's not easy. There's a lot of competition to win that one. So we have a great school. We have been given this great opportunity, as Beth said, and they're asking you tonight to let's rally and spread the word and reinvent this and make it the best it can be. Let's close with a prayer. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Lord, we thank you for all of your blessings for gathering us tonight. This is the wonderful story of our school, our parish children, all the sacrifices that our parents make, and all those who help to support our school. We ask your blessing as we go forward, that you help us to make the best decisions, to be great stewards, to be energetic and creative and enthusiastic, to be willing to continue to do what needs to be done to build up our school as a place of faith and hope and love. And we ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen. God bless you, folks. Thanks for coming in.